All right, guys, so we're going to talk about distance on a coordinate plane. So if you look at graph A, it's pretty easy to tell the distance between those 2 points. You could just count the number of squares in between. So we have 1, 2, 3 in between those 2 points. But it's not so easy to count here. You actually are never, ever, ever supposed to count the diagonal. So why don't you write that down? Do not count diagonal. That's like a big no-no. You're going to get the wrong answer, okay? So when you are trying to figure out what is this length, you have to create a right triangle. I'm going to use a different colored pen so y'all can see it better. But you want to create a right triangle by connecting those 2 points this way and that way. Okay, so you just created your right triangle, and you know that these are the legs. This is 1, 2, 3 units, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So if we remember our triples, if this is 3, that's 4, that means that this is a 5-unit long length. Okay, so if we just jump down here, to find a diagonal distance on a coordinate plane, we can create our own right triangle. And use the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this diagonal distance would then represent the hypotenuse, or c. Okay, so make sure you get that down. If I go too fast, go ahead and just pause the video so you can catch up with me. All right, so let's move down to number 1. So remember, I don't want to just count the number of units diagonally. We don't do that. We want to figure out, how do I make this into a right triangle? So I'm just going to go up and over. Those are my lines, and then I can connect the 2 points. So there you see you have a nice right triangle. So I want to count how many sides this is, or how many units. By units, I mean squares. We don't count the lines, you count the squares in between. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares here. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares here. And I want to know what is C. What is this length? So if I put in Pythagorean theorem, we know that 4 squared plus 5 squared has to equal C squared. And then we just go to our calculator. Make sure that your windows are pretty good. I set mine at 1,000 just to be safe today. So if you want to pause the video, set yours to look up like mine, then that'll work. So then we go back to y equals 4 squared plus 5 squared. Second, trace 5. Wait for the question. Enter 3 times. Sorry. And then we know that C is about, I know this is a long number. Sorry, I just had an announcement. So we want to round this number to 6.4, just to 1 decimal place. So I'm going to say this is 6.4 units. And the reason I say units is they didn't give me inches or feet or centimeters. We're just looking at units on a graph. So I just count the number of squares, and those are my units. Okay, so let's do number 2. Remember, I have to create a right triangle. I'm going to go down and over, and then create my diagonal. And you could go up and left. That's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. You're going to get the same amount of units each time. So this length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units long, and this is 1, 2. So if I put that into Pythagorean theorem, I know that 7 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. Let's go ahead and solve it. 7 squared plus 2 squared. And c squared is always going to be in y2 by itself. Second, trace 5. Enter 3 times. And since that's an 8, I want to round this 2 up to a 3. So it's going to be about 7.3 units. Okay, this time I want you to go ahead and do number 3 by yourself. If you're listening to this video, I want you to put a star right here, and that way I can tell the people who are listening and who are not. And then you're going to solve this by yourself. So when you turn this paper in, these questions that I'm not doing with you should be completed on your own. Okay, when you're ready, Pause the video, and then when you're ready, you can flip over to the back side and we'll continue. All right, so we're going to move on to number 4. Okay, now notice I don't have any points here. I have to create my own points. They just gave me ordered pairs. So remember, before you just start putting points wherever, this ordered pair means you have to crawl before you can walk. So we know -6, I'm going to go left, -6, and then I go up 1 unit, and that's my first point. The second point, I have to go left 4 and up to 5, and that's my second point. Then you just create your right triangle. You count your units. So we have 1, 2 here. Sorry, y'all, I keep having so many announcements when I'm trying to make this video. So this is 2 units. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And so I just put those into Pythagorean theorem. I know it's 2 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So I go ahead and solve it. Okay, so I could round that to about 4.5. So this is going to be 4.5 units. Okay, so this is pretty easy. Just make sure you plot the points first. You put them on the graph. So eventually you're going to have 1 and then 2 and 3 triangles on this graph by the time that you're done with these 3 problems. So I want you to do 5 and 6 next. And next to 5 and 6, why don't you go ahead and draw a little star next to those so I can tell that you're listening. And when you're done, you'll have these completed too. So pause the video, get 5 and 6 done, and then we can move on to number 7. All right, so number 7 says find the perimeter of the trapezoid. So remember, perimeter means that you add up all the sides. But I don't really have a formula for this. You could just add up all these squares, but then we hit a problem spot when we're doing this. Remember, we do not count the diagonal. So we have to figure this out using Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to create my own right triangle. I'm just going to kind of like cut off this side. And then I want to count my units and find C using Pythagorean theorem. So I know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units long. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units long. So I know that it's 8 squared plus 6 squared to equal C squared. We're going to solve that real quick. Second trace 5. Okay, so you get C is 10 units. So I know that this side length is 10. So what we want to do is then count all of these other straight sides and we add them together to get the perimeter. So I know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 units there. So I want to add up these 4 numbers because I just want the lengths of the outside. So I know doing 6 plus 8 plus 10 plus 12. Let's go ahead and do that. Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always just pause the video, catch up with me. And we have 36. So that's our perimeters, 36 units. And like I said, that's pretty easy. You just have to create that right triangle to figure out that little piece because you cannot count the diagonal. It's not going to give you the same answer. You can go ahead and skip number 8. It's a little hard, so we're just going to make sure you did this problem. If you want, you can practice on it, but I'm not going to grade you on number 8. And let's move on to number 9. So in a graph below, point A is Ashley's house, B is Bridget, and C is Carly. Each unit on the graph represents 2 miles. So that's super important. That's going to come up later in this, so make sure that you underline it. And we're going to do A together. To the nearest tenth, how many miles is Ashley's house from Bridget? So we have Ashley and Bridget. I'm going to create my own right triangle to connect Ashley and Bridget. So then I want to count my units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 here. Okay, so if I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem, it's 11 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. And let's solve it. Okay, and I'm going to round that to about 12. So let's say C is 12. But remember that this is units, okay? The question is asking how many miles. So if we know that each unit is 2 miles, I could just take these 12 units and multiply times 2. So this is 24 miles. Okay, so I want you to do B and then C on your own. Make sure that you're creating your own right triangle from Ashley to Carly, and then read this problem. Make sure you are always, always, always reading, because it's asking about miles, not units. So when you are done with this paper, you've done B, C, B, and these two, and the one on the front, you can turn this paper in and grab the second homework paper, work that on your own, and complete the quiz after this video. All right, good luck, guys.